One summer moment can change a child's life. Through Toys for Tots Give and Go initiative, your support provides books, games, toys, and outdoor adventures that spark curiosity, creativity, and a love of nature. Whether it's fishing, learning a new sport, reading under a tree, or playing with friends, these moments build confidence and lifelong memories. For too many children, those moments never come. You can help change that this summer. Visit toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots, delivering hope beyond the holidays.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back to the Sid and Friends in the Morning Show. I'm Jake Novak. It's the Katz and Company takeover as Sid takes a well-deserved day off. With us is John Catsimatidis, Staten Island Borough President Vita Fossella, Michael Cohen, who is about to embark on a career here at WABC Radio. July 12th at 5 p.m., we will have the first episode of When You Know with Michael Cohen. So make sure you tune in for that. And he's been joining us in the studio all morning. Fernando Mateo, we finally got him out of the studio for a moment. He'll be back in just a moment. Off the air, I was talking about something. Michael Cohen said something interesting during our last segment.
Oh, shocker.
He said the word cult. And, I guess it was the old joke that, if you agree with me all the time, it's a cult. As a member of the oldest surviving cult in the world, I can tell you I gave it the office. I don't need to join another one. I see so many people, however, though, folks, everybody here in the studio, I see so many people who have made politics their religion. There's no such thing, my friends, as a non-religious person. You may not be a Jew, you may not be an active Jew or an active Christian or even an active Muslim, but maybe you follow fish around the country. Maybe you're one of those people who paints his face blue and goes shirtless at a negative 15-degree football game. These are all religious behaviors. These are cultish behaviors, and there's not one person I've ever met who isn't religious, doesn't believe in something in a faith-based way, in other words, not a scientific way. And politics, sadly, in my opinion, has become a religion for so many people, and that, Vita Fossella, Michael Cohen, Fernando, and John, is why we are in this divide now in America, because no longer just a disagreement of politics. It's now heresy. Heresy. You've come into my temple and desecrated it. And that is why. It's because it's the lack of real meaning, of deeper meaning in the lives of the people who are taking it so personally. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, Jake, I'm back.
You came back.
I ran. I heard you down the hallway saying Fernando just stepped out. I ran back.
You ran back.
Fast.
And you were using a baseball metaphor.
I must say something today, and I don't know if the rest of you knew of. Today, just came up on my computer, and it brings back great memories. One of my best friends, one of my good friends, birthday today, Lolly Weymouth. She family owned the Washington Post, and she was one great lady, and we were together on her birthday last July 4th, and then she passed away I think in September or October, with pancreatic cancer, I thought it was. I'm not sure, but one great lady. I just want her. People
always had a big party.
Always had the big party, but people are alive if you mention their name. And I wanted to make sure I mention her name. Happy birthday, Lolly Weymouth, wherever you are.
Amen.
Amen.
Yep. Hey, John, have you ever thrown a white party in the Hamptons? You have all these guys.
This is a true story. I had some friends over, and my friend Ted Nicholas is married to a black girl, and I said I got invited to a white party, and the black girl didn't know what we were talking about, and says, does that mean I'm not invited?
Are you serious?
I am serious. I mean, not everybody knows the language of the Hamptons.
There's a white party going on this weekend, I believe, where A-Rod was making out with a beautiful brunette. And he had just left his other girlfriend a few months ago.
A-Rod used to be married to a Greek girl, and that's how I know A-Rod down in Miami. And her father was a priest, and look,
A-Rod is A-Rod. Let's just pay right. He used to live in my building. I know him very well.
And we used to see women coming and going all the time. A-Rod is A-Rod.
I know him very
he is
well.
who he is, and he's a phenomenal...
Is that why his second part of his name is Rod?
Oh, no.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Okay, it's
Well,
9:39 a.m.,
We can
not
easily
PM.
devolve this conversation.
Vito, but you were giving us a baseball metaphor before that I thought was pretty...
By the way, our ratings today are in the moon. So
Fantastic.
thank you all for all of us being here. I mean, I can't believe 4 hours are going by so fast.
It's going by very fast.
It's all the catering, John.
Yeah.
The food is just overwhelming.
Man, I've been nursing this cup of water for 5 hours. But Vito, tell us about the baseball
I'm on a
metaphor.
sugar high from the Pop-Tart.
I think, again, I go back to the vast majority of people, they just want to go about their lives with their families. They appreciate this country. That's my observation, and I live it every single day. But there are those who don't, right? And I use the analogy of if you're a Yankees fan or a Red Sox fan, you hate everything. If you're a Yankees fan, you hate everything the Red Sox do. The guy can pitch a perfect game. He's a bum. Right? He can, if the umpire misses a call in the favor of the Yankees, good for him. If the umpire misses a call in favor of the Red Sox, he's on the take. So there's no love for the Red Sox in any way, shape, or form. I'm just using this as an example, and vice versa. The Red Sox, if the Yankees who score 400 runs, they're all a bunch of losers, right? And unfortunately, there are those who look at politics the same way. They have a feeling about one party and they can't stand the other. Then there are those in another party can't stand the other. And no matter what they do, if you're trying to do a good thing, doesn't matter. They will do everything they do to crush it in the cradle. There's a way around it. The trend on the other party right now, and Fernando took issue with me the other day when I said the other party, but socialism does not work. On the 250th anniversary of this country, the 25th anniversary of 9/11 coming up, where this city was rocked, this country was rocked, but we stood tall and came back strong. Socialism doesn't work. And wherever it has taken root, it has destroyed people, it has destroyed freedom, it has destroyed economies, destroyed everything it touches. There's a trend, it's a disturbing trend in the other party where socialism is taking root. It's up to the good people, the vast majority, to say, no, we're not going to let these weeds grow, and we're going to put it to bed. And sometimes you have to experience it in real time and in reality to sort of say, no, we don't want it. And that's my prayer for the city and the others. In the last week, we saw a bunch of socialists winning the Democratic primary. Not good.
So I'm confused because we're not a socialist country. Mm-hmm. We're not Canada. We're not, say, New Zealand. We're a democratic republic. I don't even understand the whole concept of this democratic socialism. It just doesn't. It is so antithetical. And to do it, and for it to be antithetical, as you're saying, on our 200th semi-quincentennial, makes no sense at all. It makes as little sense as listening to people from my own party, from the Democratic Party, turn around and say, Trump is hijacking America's 250th. No, he's not. How's he hijacking? You're not going to hijack my party. You're not going to hijack what's going on in America. Look at you. You're hanging a massive, massive flag there in Staten Island on the Verrazano. Donald Trump involved in that?
No.
Okay, why
We'd
is
love to have
everything...
him.
By the way, why not? Who wouldn't, right? I don't care who the president is. It's always an honor to have the president there with you. Not according to, the far left. Absolutely not. If Donald Trump is there, he's ruining the party. If Donald Trump decides that he wants to create something for people on the fair over there at the Great Mall, no freaking good. The stupid thing isn't working. There's no food. There's some of the states decided not to show up. Shame on the state that doesn't show up. You're not showing up. It's not Donald Trump's 250th anniversary. It's the United States of America's. And we have to understand, we are all Americans. We should be celebrating this together, hand in hand, across the country, not turning around trying to chop off the other guys.
Michael, it's a movement that's going on right now, a movement. And the people that are coming out to vote are 10% of the population in those districts, which means that no one came out to vote other than white, crazy, young people.
You're right. By the way, did you see in the Colorado one, the Democratic Socialist who won 59,000 votes? Seriously, that's like the number of people I have in my LinkedIn.
Well,
because you know why? You know why, Matteo? When you know, you know.
When and there's no excuses for people that
We
go.
would've whipped that
There's
in.
no excuses for people that don't come out to vote.
We gotta give
there's
you guys
so
a
many,
jingle.
I think
Amen.
the Jewish community needs to learn a huge lesson with this socialist uprise here in New York City. They did not come out to vote. And that was the problem.
But some of it is you got to explain the policy.
No, what happened? Are you talking about the vote with the / mayoral vote?
Yeah, no, the congressional elections.
Well,
Just,
nobody's going.
no one came out to vote.
Where is it? Australia or New Zealand, where people get penalized if they don't vote?
And in ancient Greece, in Athens.
Yeah, and what did Plato say about voting?
Vote early and often. Oh, that was Chicago.
No, that was Chicago. I mean, and I think
Mayor Daley.
if I remember what he said, is that if you don't vote, you're going to end up with bad candidates or something.
No, that's what I said.
No, it was very eloquent, and it was told me the other day. And you know who told me? Oh my God!
Curtis Sliwa?
No way! No way! Hey, don't
Let's
forget.
not mention this guy here
Don't
again.
forget.
We're advertising for him.
President Trump's mission to me was to get Curtis Sliwa out of the race, and I've said this publicly already. And his mission was he was going to get Eric Adams out of the race, and he accomplished his mission. I failed the president.
Here's the quote. Here's the quote by
John.
Plato.
Well, you know why?
One of the
you know why?
I do want to know why.
Mondami's people were also giving money to Curtis.
Yeah, the guy doesn't know which way to roll.
All right,
He
let's
was in
talk
the
about
gay
someone who knew.
parade doing the booty dance.
The great Plato.
All right,
Here's the quote.
Plato's quote.
One of the penalties of refusing to participate in politics or not to vote is that you end up being governed by your inferiors.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's,
We're in that position.
but you
now.
also have to call out what these policies are. People like, one of the candidates who won, I was watching an interview and she was asked the question about, she was upset with pre-check when it comes to flying.
Yeah.
And her response was, let's nationalize the airlines. It's just like insane, right? You're upset with one little thing with a private company, and their response is, well, we should nationalize the airline industry. And as long as people, when they're told those things, when they're told what they truly stand for, most people will be rejected, and perhaps they will begin engaged and will come out and vote. And it's up to the 90% who don't show up, some of them just, they get up in the morning, they go to work, they're working all day, they got families, they got kids, they got little league, they got dance or whatever. By the time 8 o'clock rolls around, all they want to do is sit in the couch.
Yeah, but
It's
nonsense. Every single American should have it in them.
I agree.
To literally, it's your one
agree, but-
obligation to do.
I have to agree
70
with you.
million Americans didn't vote.
You can't
in the
vote
general
anymore,
elec-
right?
I
You-
can. New York.
they
allowed-
allow
yeah.
felons to
yeah,
vote?
Yeah, yeah, I voted. 70 million Americans chose not to vote in the general election. They could not stand Donald Trump, and they would not vote for a black woman. And you say to yourself, interesting. You really can't figure out which candidate you think would be better for this country?
I've encountered people on the street where they don't even register to vote, let alone, and I actually take a position. I said, people died. Men and women died in the Army, the Navy, Marines, whatever you want to say, Air Force. They died for that right. Just do something to participate.
Here's somebody who's doing something.
Honor
We've got on the phone Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from the 24th District of New York. Congresswoman Tenney, we've been talking about
And that's right on the border of Canada.
Yeah, right on the border of Canada.
My home and native land. I had to learn the song.
And
on God we stand.
and I take credit for putting Doug Band from Ontario together with Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who her territory borders Ontario.
Yeah, well, good morning. I had a great conversation with Doug Ford, and he is all for improving relations with U.S. and Canada, New York and Canada. So, and funny, we're both in the same business. We're both in the printing business. So, but anyway, that's the future.
Congresswoman, we've been talking about America 250. Obviously, that's the big topic as we get into the July 4th weekend, and today is the federal holiday. I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people living in the 5 boroughs, Staten Island being the exception, they're not even paying attention to this. That's really, really, really disturbing. I mean, Or they think that the time of the birthday is the time to air all their grievances. That's like, you have a child who's not doing well in school, not doing so well. The party is not the time to say all the bad things about your kid, right? I mean, what are you seeing up in your district? Are there a lot of events planned, and are people excited about it?
Yeah, actually, my district is full of excitement. People are really into it. There's all kinds of events going on. But look, I was there for 1976, with the bicentennial. I remember how exciting and fun that was, and people were really into it. And I mean, there's a lot going on. I'm actually in Washington, and there's a lot going on here. There's people all over the place in spite of the really, really hot weather. And but I think what's happened is over time, and I hate to blame our education system, but we've lost the ability to teach our children, how lucky and grateful we should be for having this country. And, you always have to, I think, remember, what Ronald Reagan said, freedom is only one generation from being extinct, and it doesn't come in our blood. We have to fight for it every generation. And I feel like we've maybe, sort of dropped the ball on that. So many kids do not really understand the greatness of this country, and they don't understand that people are coming here from all over the world because they're escaping tyranny and other systems that don't work as well as this one. And we know this one is imperfect. We're always trying to improve it. But that was the vision of our founders. And I worry that people just, have decided that, they're grievance-based. They complain that, everything isn't perfect. They're not willing to fight and strive. And I have to tell you, I remember, stories listening to my dad who his parents came in and met on Ellis Island, one from Scotland, one from Germany. And they couldn't wait, number one, to get to work. Their brothers would go to work, and they wanted to get to work, and they were only 11 years old. They couldn't wait to join the Navy or join the Army and get excited about it. It was a complete honor and a privilege to have this opportunity. And I think that there are a lot of people that do feel that way, but I feel like some of the people, especially in some of the, I hate to say, bluer areas, really have this grievance mentality, and they really don't realize that, you got to take advantage of it. You can't be a victim. And my dad, who was always, came from poverty, would say, never be a victim. Always feel grateful for what you have and what you could have if you only work a little harder and try a little harder. And I'm grateful for him. I'm glad I had those values passed down to me, but I don't think a lot of these young people are getting those values passed to them.
Because, Congresswoman, I hate to say it, but grievance sells. People have learned how to not just weaponize grievance, but to monetize grievance. And that, I think, is one of the biggest problems that's out there. It's always easy to find a scapegoat. It's always easy to turn around and to promote this hate, and especially when by doing so, you're actually profiting financially from it. I listened to a guy the other day on TikTok. Now. I listened to this guy the other day on TikTok. I was blown away, talking about he's a complete anti-Trumper to the nth degree, literally turning around and saying that he himself is saving democracy. He had about 600 people on with him. He's saving democracy with his 600 people, right, by sitting there and trashing the president of the United States. Look, we have lost those days of Tip O'Neill where you can have a disagreement with somebody, and yet afterwards you go out and you have a bite to eat or a beer. You can have a different point of view. I actually believe that that's healthy for a democracy. But when you start attacking the other side for having that difference of opinion, that's when you lose your democracy, and you end up with this nonsense like what we have here in New York with this democratic socialism.
Congresswoman.
Oh, yeah, well, I think it's Marxism, but I'll give you just an anecdote from my life. I used to spend a lot of time overseas, and I spent a lot of time in the former Yugoslavia, which was a communist country. Some people like to say socialist, but it was communist. If you disagreed, with the leadership of the Communist Party, you ended up in a barren island in the Adriatic Sea, and or in a work camp at the same place. But here's the interesting. I remember my friends used to say to me, you guys are arguing, you Republicans and Democrats, you're basically arguing over how to get to the same goal. We all care about helping people who are truly needy. We care about helping our small businesses. We want to give people opportunities. All those things are what we used to all believe in generally. But the question was how we get there. And my friends from Yugoslavia used to say, we disagree, especially here and in Europe, on we have a communist versus a capitalist versus these are our parties are taking down the entire system. and then, we don't believe in the system you're in. But the problem we have in America is that we have this system, which I think is not perfect, but it's the best that we've ever had. And we have people that have now come in, these democratic socialists who I think are Marxist, communists, people who are very ignorant. They can't make a plausible argument of why they want what they want. But they're talking about tearing down the Constitution of the United States, which those of us in the majority mostly are celebrating this idea of freedom and individual rights and self-governance. They're talking about those things that would destroy this country and this Constitution, that believe in those things. And I don't think they really understand what democracy means. I don't think they understand a constitutional republic and self-governance. I don't think they have the statesmanship and the forth and the thought that went into this, and the political battles that our founders went through to come up with this Constitution. They didn't just put a bunch of things on paper. They fought and argued every nuance of our Constitution and every nuance of, by the way, the Bill of Rights, which is very nuanced. And they did this because they wanted to get as close as they could to preserving freedom and also recognizing we created a federal government for security against our enemies, for national defense, for border security, because you can't live in this experiment that we have without having secure borders and people that believe in the same thing. And that's what the communists are doing. On our 250th anniversary, what a terrible, I say, omen to see all these communists coming in who want to destroy our country after only 250 years.
Congresswoman Claudia.
They want to destroy the Constitution.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, and, I'll do you, unfortunately, one better on that. I think these people, and it's been shown with this Act Blue scandal and some of the other follow-the-money operations, that they are being funded by our foreign enemies. And I want to let everyone know, listening, that you have a son who's active duty Marine Corps officer, United States Marine Corps. The very people that your son is protecting us from in the Marines are funding these candidates. This is not an opinion. This is objectively true now. This has to be frightening you.
Yeah, well, of course, yes. And it's a great day. I'm actually going to spend some time with my son who lives in Virginia. He actually works in an intelligence agency as a major in the Marine Corps. He works on AI, of all things, artificial intelligence, and he's getting a master's in it as well. But, boy, does he know what the threats are. And the threats are, look, we have become so porous and allowed our foreign entities to get in. And look, the Chinese are here. They're gaining ground on us in so many ways, whether it's through TikTok, social media, buying up farmland. There's so many things they're doing, and we're sort of asleep at the switch in many ways. Though we fight it, a lot of people don't seem to care. But that monetizing things and the new media, the social media we didn't have before, is really a device for making money. And I think people need to understand all this fraud, abuse, and waste you're seeing is a lot of these things. For example, in L.A., we had a whistleblower come to us. We broke this out. I was just talking to Med Manaz, the other day about this issue where a Russian cartel, a Russian organized crime company came in and took advantage of our system because in California they weren't paying attention. They weren't giving oversight. Between 2021 and 2024, while everybody was home instead of going to work, they literally took tens of billions of dollars away from us in just one county in the United States, and that is what has been happening. And they're monetizing everything. They can monetize, as you say, this grievance and hate, and it's sad. I mean, I think we have to find, inspirational people who are out there showing there is a better way, because this doesn't end well. I lived in Yugoslavia. It didn't end well. People were, nice and hospitable and everything, but they waited in line. They didn't have access to good services and products. And look today, I've been watching this. Look at Zoran Mandami and the Democrats who have actually deliberately cut down our ability to have abundant resources when it comes to energy, which we have, and are rationing now. This is the rationing of collectivism that you're seeing under Mandami, and this is what it ends up being. There isn't enough of everybody else's money to give to people unless they're adding to their society and their community and the economics of it.
Congresswoman, it's so enlightening to hear you. This is Fernando Mateo. I have a show here on WABC called No Excuses. Michael Cohen is here with us. He has a program that will start next week, just before mine. It's
When you know, you know.
When you know, you know. And then we have Jake Novak.
You like that, huh, Congresswoman?
She likes No Excuses better, actually.
No.
But,
I actually like both of them. I will tell you, I remember, my father, who was just a wonderful guy, grew up in little northern New Jersey and then ended up in upstate New York. I always thought one of the greatest things he ever said was as a lawyer as well, and he was a judge. He was Supreme Court justice. Actually, he was in New York City all the time and loved it. He always said, know what you don't know, and that'll help you a lot in life. And I see so many people, every time I see these members of Congress, getting out there and saying silly, stupid things, and then they make money on it, everyone should know what you don't know before you dive into
But then after me is Jake Novak. Jake, what's the name of your show?
Freedom 250, The Decisions That Made America, a special show we're doing throughout the rest of the year.
The only guy without
it's
a
like
show.
a paragraph.
Yeah.
Well, Vito, listen, you may be called in. You never know.
I would love. They all sound great.
Well, I'm by myself at 5:00, so I mean, I'm on the 5:00 show this afternoon. I hope you call in, Claudia.
Well, yeah. Well, hopefully it's going to be.
Well, by the way,
thank you.
By the way, please tell your son we thank him for his service to this country. It's one thing I constantly remind everyone, starting with my children to friends, and then even when I'm on my Substacks or my other platforms, I always say, when you see a police officer, just thank them for their service. When you see someone in uniform, just thank them for their service. It's so easy, and you'd be shocked how memorable it is to them, because thanks to them, our Constitution exists. Thanks to them, we're able to celebrate the 250th anniversary of this great country. And you're right, there is no country that even comes close. So let's just stop all beating up on each other and sort of
Michael, let's let Vito
unify.
say a few words.
I just have a question for the Congresswoman.
apologize.
I'm just curious. I was privileged to serve back in the 90s and 2000s. And I noticed a trend from when I first got there to when I left, that there was a lot of collaboration. There was a willingness to work together across the aisles. Granted, the media always focused on the negative and people who hated each other. But most members of Congress truly had a desire to work with everybody, with each other, to your point about a goal, a shared goal, and how do we get there. And I saw it drift. I'm curious, Congresswoman, what is the mood in Congress these days of working together across the aisle to achieve, common goals?
I think it's very prevalent. I mean, I serve on the Ways and Means Committee, which I think is a very bipartisan committee. I think this is where the issue is, though. We work on many bipartisan bills. We do a lot together. There's a lot of Democrats and quite honestly, the Democrats are terrified of what's happened with these communist Marxist types getting in. I mean, they're very worried about it. But none of them are standing up to them. They're all endorsing and moving on and just looking at them as sort of an aberration. I think the problem comes down to, if I have a bunch of bipartisan bills, it's hard to get them to vote for them on the floor when they ultimately get there, because there's someone on the far left. We have narrow majorities and someone that does that. And I will say, it's also, Nancy Pelosi was very partisan. I actually use Claude AI. I admit that, but it's kind of interesting. I always say the female version is Claudia. It was named after me. But I had Claude do a search on partisanship, and it actually showed that the Democrats are more partisan than we are, that we tend to reach across the aisle more than they do. We want to compromise. We want to have goodwill. And like, for example, the One Big Beautiful Bill, there are so many provisions that were incorporated. Those are, bills that were bipartisan. I had 4 or 5 myself that were incorporated into that HR1, the president's big tax cut bill last year, that were bipartisan, and they got passed. And Democrats were thrilled. But did they vote for it? No, because it was perceived as Donald Trump's bill. So they're not going to vote for it. And this is where the issue is. And I think, the Republicans, certainly we have our divides, and we're always more diverse than the Democrats, but they, even in spite of their diversity, they tend to stick together. We don't. We have a lot of people that won't stick together and bring us over the finish line with a lot of bills, which this week proved. But I do think there's a lot of bipartisanship. I don't know what it was like in the past. I think people work together maybe a little more, but we do have a lot of that bipartisanship going on. And I was, one of the things that I started, I was happy to join. It was started by actually Speaker Mike Johnson in my freshman year. It was a commitment to civility with Republicans and Democrats in our freshman class. And it was about working together, bringing the temperature down, doing things together, getting to know each other. And you mentioned Tip O'Neill. We had a group that we've sort of lost a few members, but we have to, because they've left for whatever reason. But we also had a group called the Reagan O'Neill Club, and it was a chance for Republicans and Democrats in equal numbers. We'd get together and just purely social means. It wasn't some fundraising gimmick like a lot of these groups are. It was just to get to know each other, to know that, we have families, that we have similar missions. We just have to get back to where, that. And it was a great club to be part of, and we got to really, get some more meetings going on it. It's been kind of a strange year, to be perfectly honest.
I want to talk about some good news, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from the 24th District in New York, Western New York, I believe is the best way to generally describe it.
It's Northern, Central, and Western.
So you got a lot of regions.
And Southern Tier.
Southern Tier, we've known about the economic challenges that part of New York State have faced for a long time, but I am seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. These regions now, because of the cheaper electric power, when Kathy Hochul isn't ruining it, we should have abundant energy resources from there because of Niagara Falls and things like that. We're seeing investment in that part of the state in some ways, in big ways. And I we've been talking about this statistic. There are 1,200 new millionaires created in this country every single day. Last year, that was the stat. Give us, we're talking about our great history and our great past. But I'd love to hear your optimistic thoughts about the future.
Yeah, well, actually, my district is historically incredible. Just when you look at the region of upstate New York, as we go to the 250th anniversary, we have just so much that was part of our history and our founding from all these great leaders. We also have the Erie Canal. We have, great history when it comes to the civil rights movement. The Abolitionist Hall of Fame is up in my region. Frederick Douglass wrote his North Star. These are all, Harriet Tubman's home is up in my region. These are all amazing parts of our history that come a little later than 250. But when it comes to what's happening, I think people have recognized we have abundant resources. We have beautiful, abundant water that's clean. We have the Great Lakes. We have Erie and Ontario. We also have the Finger Lakes. We have a lot of opportunities. We get harsh cold weather, but we typically don't get the other kind of, major weather events that others get, like, hurricanes and major droughts. And we have a great working force and people that love the communities, and we have beautiful places to live. And I think what's happened, though, a lot of people have come out of the cities, whether it's Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, and those areas, and have moved kind of into the rural areas, which is what I represent. And that's where you're seeing all this opportunity. And I do see a lot of people really, in spite of the New York State legislature and the terrible economic policies coming out of the legislature, and, by the way, energy policies. Remember something, we have Niagara Falls, as you cited, all of the operational nuclear power plants, which, provide emissions-free baseload power, are in my district in New York 24. So they're all here. They shut down Indian Point down in the city, which actually, near the city, which brought the baseload power to New York City. And we have all kinds of resources and things that we can use to use for the power grid. But, New York City is dependent on natural gas to operate its power grid. We aren't. We only are about 30% dependent on fossil fuels because of our nuclear and our solar, and also because of the hydropower coming from Niagara Falls. But, this is one of those things where we have great opportunities. Micron is actually growing there. We broke ground earlier this year. That's going to be really important for our security. We have a lot of other companies up there.
And by the way,
so why don't people talk about Micron? Why don't they talk about the groundbreaking? Really,
it's only up at 12,000% or 1,200%
right,
this
but
year.
Why don't they talk about it? Most people, if you speak to them, they do not know that they broke ground. People turn around and say, well, Trump's got these trillions of dollars that is supposed to be going into the development of new business and so on. And they're like, well, where is it? What's going on? I didn't know that they're breaking ground. Why not?
Look, it was a big event. We had it at Syracuse University, and they're building and putting. It should have been done 3 years ago, but of course, we worked really hard in the one big beautiful bill, the Basic Act, which was my bill, enabled them to get the tax credits they needed to build it. And we needed the tax credits because we wanted the incentives for them. They only could get it. They had to build it in New York, which is critically important. We have the water, but remember the day that we broke ground, the day after, the environmentalists sued because they don't think we should be. They think we should be composting and living in huts.
Right. Well, sadly, most people don't know about Micron. And the construction.
It's the biggest development in upstate New York. And think about this: we need to have the edge on China. We need to have the memory. We need these kinds of chips that are there. And it's really important. And people are fighting the data centers. When you guys talk about China and overseas influence, these data centers are going to be critically important for AI and our infrastructure and our security. And there's better ways that we can even make them more efficient, use less energy, but there's all kinds of lies being perpetrated. And I guarantee you they're coming from overseas, much like the kind of propaganda that was coming via Russia and others that wanted to shut down our natural gas industry in upstate New York. The Petroleum Institute proved that there was outside influences, not American, talking the Democrats into shutting down natural gas exploration in 2014, which really hurt New York.
Congresswoman, what's even worse than that, and I talk to Bonnie Brady all the time, who's those windmills that the Democrats signed off on, that is part of the Norwegian government that outsmarted the Democrats in signing, that's going to cost the New Yorkers 200 to 300% more for electricity.
Yeah, well, and we are seeing these
and destroying our environment besides.
Right. By the way, the biggest gift that we have in New York is we have natural gas. Nothing has brought down emissions more effectively and more quickly than advent of natural gas. Yet we're prohibited from exploring and taking advantage of the Marcellus and Utica shale that we have all over, the southern tier and into parts of upstate New York. It's a tragedy, really, because, even Obama's EPA administrator said, natural gas was safe, but now because of these hardliners in the Democrats in Albany, they continue to not allow us to get natural gas, which would be an incredible opportunity for New York, for businesses. We would actually have an opportunity to reassert ourselves as the empire state. And, we're not doing that because of these crazy, far left environmentalists and the influence coming, I think you guys are right. I think it's coming from foreign governments because they don't want us to compete. They don't want us to not stop buying, solar panels and wind components from China.
And it's all a big con.
To be dependent on Russian, gas and oil.
It's all a big con. And in the whole environmental thing, well, it would take hours to discuss the environmental stuff. We should all be careful and take care of the planet Earth. But there are reasons for everything happening. And I'll just tell you, well, Michael, what do you think?
No, look, I'm with you on that. If you're unhappy in New York, you have the ability to pick yourself and move to New Jersey. You can move to Florida. You can move to out of the country, Italy, France. It makes no difference. You can't leave Earth. So we have an obligation to future generations to provide them with at least an Earth that can sustain human life, clean water, clean air, and so on. But we have technology today that can actually help. So, yeah, I'm hearing from people that many of these data centers are extremely noisy and loud in a certain area. Fine. Let's use technology. Let's use our capabilities to ensure that people who live in the area are not living in areas that they can't sleep because of the humming noise. I get it. I totally get their frustration. But to stop progress simply because you're not willing to, invest in the technology to have the data centers or whatever else is necessary in order for us to become more independent. I'm with you. We should be building solar panels here in America. We should have our own data centers. We should be manufacturing this stuff here in America as opposed to these cheap imitations that we're constantly buying. And it just puts our national security, by the way, in jeopardy. The fact that all of our chips are technically coming from Taiwan. This is problematic.
Michael, can I say a word?
Always.
Thank you, Mike. Michael,
welcome to the Michael Cohen Show.
Earth is 4.54 billion years old. What's going to change the Earth? Nothing. So, when people talk about Earth is going to change, when I was a kid, we used to get 18 inches of snow.
I'm going to give you 2 cents. 2 cents of a thing of the environment. People says the CO2 went up, but the planet Earth is a living being. The planet Earth.
Yes.
And why did CO2 go up? When you have 7 billion people, now you have 8 billion people, the planet Earth makes more CO2. You know why?
Because you have to flush the toilet more.
No.
Another billion flushes.
Methane from cows.
Would you listen for a second?
I'm listening.
Okay? To be able to grow more plants to feed the people. That's and the planet Earth has made that decision to do that. And all the people that say about, we're going to run out of oil. The planet Earth makes the crude. And the purpose of the crude oil is to move the plaques among the planet Earth.
Tectonic plates.
Tectonic plates. And what fracking in Oklahoma, if they're taking out too much crude at one time, that's what causes the earthquakes. So everything in moderation.
And by the way, the interesting thing, too, is you don't have to worry about Earth running out or humanity running out of oil.
Not running out.
Because here's the funny thing. Technology has replaced the necessity for oil. We can actually go ahead, not 100%, but you can go electric, and soon they'll have hydrogen. I mean, they'll always come. There's always a genius out there that's going to come up with some other alternative source.
I would say, I think what the congresswoman has to deal with on a regular basis is this notion that you're either for the environment or against it. You're either or. And the fact is, it's a balance. You got to balance the reality of life, economics, making progress versus this. How do we protect the environment, if you will, in the right sort of way? And I'm guessing, Congresswoman, that you come across people who don't want to hear that there's a balance to anything. It's you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I'm curious, do you see that on a regular basis when we're talking about the political nature of the world?
I think the biggest problem we have is people have access to, they're bombarded with media, social media of every kind, decentralized media. There's no one source. It's not like you have 3 channels and everybody watches the TV or whatever. They're just getting all this information at them, and they don't know what is true and what isn't. And people like you can be dragged down by propaganda down a rabbit hole and say, well, this is what's happening, instead of looking at really what the science is or the counter argument to some of these things. And that's what we don't have. We don't have a counter argument or, a sensible view of these things, which is what we really need, because that's what we find where, people, when they find out the truth, that they find out the facts and find out that this is just even an AI generated, piece of or document they see, and it's very compelling, or it meets them in some emotional way. And they're like, oh, that's how people are making decisions, not based on science and critical thinking, which is what I think we've lost a lot in our schools, is that we've become this, everybody's got their faces in their phones and their computers, and we're not out, experiencing the world. And really, I just feel like that's big. I owned a newspaper, so I think people aren't thinking, I'm very suspicious of everything. I get things all the time, and a lot of times I just send them over to my son. I go, is this real? What is this? Where is this from? And because he's just so good on computers. He was a computer science major at the Naval Academy. He's, worked at the Naval Research Lab. He's like AI.
Can I have his number? Because I'm technologically challenged.
Yeah. Well, sometimes he does stuff to me. This is what we deal with our children. He'll say, just turn it off and turn it on.
The old reboot method. We need, by the way, that's what we need in this country, a reboot method.
Congresswoman, we have a situation up in New York here, Vito, and this is something I'd like to hear your comments on, is Rikers Island. Okay? The shutting down of Rikers Island. My show is going to be focused on that this Sunday between 6 and 7 p.m. I have a warden coming in. I have a former inmate coming in, and we're discussing Rikers Island because I think it's in a city that has billions of dollars in deficits. These jails are going to cost, the new jails are going to cost probably $20 billion by the time they're built. And they want to close. They want to close $20 billion. We don't have it, but they want
to put the jails in a neighborhood near you.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is my observation. Somebody spent half my adult life in the private sector and half my adult life in the public sector. Those on the left create these notions of utopia, knowing that the goals are unrealistic. So they'll pass legislation that says we're going to meet these carbon CO2 measures and these carbon net neutrality, all this junk, knowing that they can't attain it. And they jam it down people's throats and business owners, and they know they're unattainable. And likewise at Rikers Island, if you want to improve the conditions of prison or jail, then so be it. Have that discussion. But why would you shut something down and then embark? And Fernando, I guarantee you, if they say $20 billion, it's $60 billion. That's the way this world works. And it's foolish. They grab some concept, they grab some idea, and they won't let go of it. They will not step back and say, you know what, maybe we overreached here. Maybe we overreached here. Maybe we went too far. I see it all the time in local government. Some folks in an agency make a decision, and they're unwilling to take a step back and say, you know what, maybe you make a good point here. Let's reevaluate that. In the private sector, you go out of business. John would know better than anyone. If he ran his businesses like that, he'd be out of business. But because John is an amazing man and an amazing businessman, he won't do it.
You know what's his name said, the guy who owns Amazon? He says, if I ran my business like the city is running theirs, you'll get your delivery in 3 weeks instead of 24 hours.
He said get deliveries in 6 months.
Yeah.
Michael, did you spend any time at Rikers Island?
No. And I've actually never even been there, but I can only turn around and tell you, I understand the point that's being made about Rikers Island. You can't build something in 1960 and expect 60 years later that in capital improvements are not needed. There are definite capital improvements that are needed. Shutting it down, that may not be the answer either. And I can only, again, use my firsthand experience. When I was in Otisville in upstate New York, that property was built, I believe, in 1980. They didn't put 3 freaking cents into the place. The doors didn't close during the winters. It was 40 degrees inside. We froze. I tried with this guy, Mr. Diamond, who was the head of the of construction, and he was just a wonderful guy. We tried to fix the heating system. We got it to a trickle where our beds would be, during the winter, the cold, because we're 3,000 feet up in the air, 40 degrees inside. It's not human. We'd sleep with 2 pairs of socks. You would sleep with thermals, sweatpants, your outdoor pants, a thermal T-shirt, a shirt, a sweater, your ski jacket, a hat, and gloves. That's how everybody slept, because it was, no matter, you could not keep that place.
But that's not the case at Rikers Island.
My point is, capital improvements are needed.
Yes, we know that.
And that's it. So use the concept. The problem is you don't have somebody who's competent to go around and to say, listen, you don't need to tear the place down.
Correct.
This is what you need to do. Here's the budget for it.
Put $1 billion in it.
Be like I am, or what I used to be for Trump, where I had a very sharp pencil and
you were the fixer.
Right. And I would go in and I would say, listen, all you need to do is to
fix it.
Fix the problem. You need to straighten out the doors. You need to make sure everything is sealed. You need to make sure that the heating system works. A heating system
instead of spending $20 billion.
Exactly. A heating system to do it there. Let's say it's $5 million. It ain't $1 billion and it ain't $20 billion. The problem is the fraud, waste, the abuse that goes on, the Department of Corrections, the Bureau of Prisons.
But it's the people. It's not the place.
It's the people.
It's not the place. Listen,
I'm not going to argue with you. You're right. It's the people.
I encourage you to please listen to No Excuses this Sunday between 6 and 7 so that you can hear it from the warden, from one of the guys that used to run the prisons there at Rikers Island.
I have a question for the Congresswoman. Do you think the House will remain in Republican hands in November?
Yes. I'm not so certain about the Senate, but I think the House will.
Really?
remain.
That's an opposite take. That's an opposite take for most people. A little bit of breaking news here.
I mean, look, we've got. I think we're gonna gain some seats, and we're gonna lose a couple of incumbents likely.
A little bit of breaking news here. While we were just talking, Mayor Mamdani delivered his address, America 250 address, and there was a particular paragraph in there that I think was written by someone who thinks that the movie Stripes is American history. There's a funny scene in the movie Stripes where Bill Murray says, "You know why we're Americans? Because our ancestors were the losers who got kicked out of every other country in the world," which is a joke. That's not the truth. He almost basically immediately parrots that nonsense. This is what Mayor Mamdani said. "For generation after generation, we have been told," I guess maybe by Bill Murray, "that when the world has sent its people to our shores, it has not sent its best." I never heard that. I never heard that from anyone. I never heard that only the losers came here. I heard that the smart people came here. The risk takers came here. The ones who didn't want to live in the dead end world of Europe or other parts of the world. I mean, I think
what's amazing?
The speechwriter watched Stripes and thinks that's American history.
You know what's amazing? The fact that he could even say something like that, because at the end of the day, after 250 years, and we're a relatively new country, we are economically the strongest country in the history of mankind. Technologically, militarily, we are the strongest and the best country in the history. So if a bunch of losers manage to accomplish such an incredible thing in such a short period of time, I'm happy to be called a loser. I'm happy to be called a loser.
He's not saying they're losers. He's saying that America was told they were losers. That's not true. America was told, hey, these people are going to do the work for us. These people are, for example, during the Civil War, they would come off the boat and they signed them up for the Union right then and there. I don't know what he's talking about here. Unless he's trying to take a shot at President Trump for saying that some of the illegal immigrants that came, like the ones when he spoke about in 2015, were criminals. But he was talking about illegal immigrants, and he wasn't saying that that was most of the immigrants. But of course, again, we all know that, but this has been the twist, right? Right, Vita Vasella, Staten Island Borough President, they've been twisting his words from the beginning.
They twist his words.
About Trump in the end.
And they hate, sadly and tragically, they just hate the guy.
He obviously isn't talking about all these people that came in for the World Cup and were, amazed by barbecue. They were wondering, like everyone, if you've ever been to a Buc-ee's, I mean, you got to be like, wow, this is incredible.
The irony there, Congresswoman, is the people have been apologizing for their perception of what this America has been all about. So it tells you how much they're being brainwashed in their own countries by their media, about how they're taught that America's bad. And they come here and they see for themselves what all our ancestors did. This is the land of freedom and opportunity if you want it. There are those who come here and say, give me, give me, give me. It's mine. You guys are evil. I have the grievance. I'm a victim. Or you come here and say, I can't count my blessings enough and the number of opportunities. And they came from places in southern Italy, in Ireland after the famine, when they had nothing there, and they said, there's one place where we can grow and make a family and be better off than we are here. And they took a risk. Some of them didn't see their families again. And there are a handful of people who have everything in the world in their pocket, in their home, in their mansion, and they hate this country. On the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, when the people back then said, enough is enough, and we are willing to stake our whole honor and our fortunes to break away from those who are doing us harm. Thank God for them, and thank God for this country.
I agree.
I'm reading.
George Washington could have been a king.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. By the way, that's going to be one of the major decisions.
By the way, no king.
No king.
That's right. By the way, and kudos to Lin-Manuel Miranda and the Hamilton musical for making a special song and point about President George Washington's decision to walk away from power. I've talked to people from political scientists all the way down to psychiatrists, or all the way up to psychiatrists, whichever way you want to rank them. And they all say the same thing, that walking away from power is harder than giving up money. That is actually the hardest thing to walk away from. And he did that.
What's amazing, truly? The fact that you can no longer have just a conversation with the other side. It's literally on both sides of the aisle, the far, far left and the far, far. You cannot have a conversation. It's either I win and you lose, or you lose and I win. I've never seen anything like it in the history of this country. The divisiveness is, I don't think it has ever been.
But I would say this to Jake's point, too, and to your point, Michael. The original concept was limited government. If somebody was elected to the House of Representatives, maybe they served 2 years, they were a farmer, they spent a few weeks maybe in the nation's capital, limited. The government is so powerful and so huge that many people who've been elected don't want to give that up. So they'll do anything they can to remain in power to control those power. The trillions of dollars that flow through the federal government that find its way into every inch of this country, people don't want to give that up. So as a result, they will do everything they can to destroy the other side to stay in power so they can control those purse strings.
Vito, just to piggyback on the power thing here. Guys, I must tell you, I've had the most amazing 4.5 hours. Okay, I feel like if I need to be Velcroed onto this chair because I don't want to leave, but I've got to leave.
We are
so
intruding.
We
are intruding in Brian Kilmeade's hour. You know that.
I am.
We went a half hour overtime on our show.
John, I got to give it to you, man. You put together an amazing team here today. Jake is always the brain here. This guy knows everything, and he's lived in every state, okay? Every state, every city, every college, he knows it. Michael, it was an honor to meet you.
The same.
I am so happy that you're going to be part of our family at WABC.
And thank you, John Katsimatidis.
Yes, and don't worry, we are going to have a full press on President Trump to get you your pardon. Okay, and once that happens and you get close to the president again, if you leave me behind, I will find you and I will take you down. I promise. But listen, I'm leaving the power mic. All right,
you
Vito.
kept the seat hot for Lee Harris.
I'm going to leave. Hey, listen, I'm leaving the seat hot for Lee.
And let's thank Congresswoman Claudia Tenney for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, Michael, you're replacing Sleepy Andrew. So I'm happy you're here, my man.
He's talking about
Andrew
Cuomo on the Sunday 5 p.m. show.
Yes.
When you know, you know.
You know, and no excuses. Have a great, happy 4th of July.
And now the dulcet tones of Lee Harris.
And we have Lee Harris here in the
legal ID.
Just here to keep you legal, gentlemen, because show's running a little overtime.
A little overtime.
This is WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, WLIR Hampton Bays, and WLID Patchogue.
Well, thank you, and we have Chad Lopez here.
Chad,
have a seat. Keep the seat warm. And Chad Lopez, the president of WABC, is here with us, and we are running overtime. We are in Brian Kilmeade's hour right now.
Sorry, Brian.
Love you, brother.
That's right.
Brian.
Sorry, not sorry.
He lives 2 towns over from me in Massapequa. I'll go over to. I'll get him a
Matzo Pizza. Matzo Pizza is an interesting area. Yeah. Everybody there is half Jewish, half Italian.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
the Jewish community is gone. I can tell you that right now. The Jewish community is
left.
It's
no longer Matzo Pizza. Just
no,
pizza?
It's just matzo. It's just pizza.
Well, I can
wait a minute. That's someone else's.
I want to hear. We have Claudia Tenney, a congresswoman, on right now.
Oh, okay.
With us.
Hello.
And Claudia, what do you think?
I'm still
She's
here.
She's still here. Thank God.
Entertaining.
I have a question for the Congresswoman. I mentioned, and feel free to disagree about the whole concept of power and what folks are willing to do to retain it in D.C. and the federal government as a whole.
I think that's true in a lot of cases. I think people get used to I don't know how much they feel I don't sit here and think, oh, geez, I'm in power.
Right.
I sit there and think, what can I do to help my constituents as a small business owner, and what can I do to help them against the onslaught from Albany? It's just how every day I'm like, oh, here's another problem to solve, or a person. It's almost like a practice of law for me, where all these problems come in every day, and you got to figure out how to solve them, and you try to put the pieces together, and you try to do what you can for them. So I don't sit there and think I'm lording over somebody. I mean, it's just not that way. But I think other members, they become staff driven. Some of these people that stay forever. They get like their staff they keep jobs for their staff, and their staff just kind of go on, and they go in and they don't really, it's become a way of life as opposed to what do you do after? And I think that tends to happen. I don't understand how anyone can do this job for as long as some people do, to be honest. But
well, you know the reason why they do
leadership. Well, if you're in leadership, I guess you are, getting power, and everyone's like walking around. I know it with my dad, every time he walked in a room, everybody stood up, and I think that it never went to his head, but I think that can get to your head. But for me, I just look at it as all my constituents. I give them my cell phone. They call me, they text me, and my staff is phenomenal. And I love, as long as I can still do those good things for them, I'll still do this. But I'm always looking at what I could do, what else I could do, that because, there's other people that would come up through the ranks, and we need to turn that over. But I don't know. You tell me, why do you? I just don't think it's. A lot of people leave, and by the way, the Republicans, and people don't realize this, in the House have term limits on leadership. And did you know that 2/3 of the Republicans that are serving today in the House of Representatives were not here in 2017 to vote on the original Trump tax cuts?
Wow.
Yeah. So when you asked why,
turnover, term limits on leadership.
Yeah. So when you asked why, it's very simple. We were talking about power before. The power is intoxicating, but it's also money in politics. When you start talking about, for example, Nancy Pelosi, and I'm a guy who worked very, very hard for many years in multiple industries. I had yellow cabs. I worked 7 days a week from 4 in the morning to 11 at night for 7 years straight without a day off. I had my own law practice going at the same time. I had real estate going. I understand everyone's desire to make money. I truly do. But explain to me, because I can't figure it out financially, economically, how somebody who makes, as a member of Congress, say $300,000 a year, manages to, in X number of years, put away off to the side over $150 million. I just don't understand it. And I do understand the concept of insider trading.
If it weren't for the economy going up, I would have a lot less money, because we make $174,000 first. Secondly, I have a home in upstate New York, and I have to also pay for an apartment down here in one of the most expensive cities, which, by the way, only recently do we get a little bit of a credit for that. We get some reimbursement, but they add it. It's a strange thing. They add it to our income, so we pay more in taxes. So, you really don't get much of a benefit. In my first couple of terms, there was no benefit. So the only way I can think of how people get rich is first of all, I don't have a spouse. They can run things through their spouse, or they can eventually, when they get out, they can make money. Or in most cases, most of the people that are in Congress are rich already by the time they get here, and some don't even take their pay. So this whole thing where I watch it online, Congress members don't contribute to Social Security, and Congress members get their pay for life, once they retire. Not true. Not true at all. Actually, the New York State retirement system is much more generous and much better.
Well, I'm talking specifically, for example, like about Nancy Pelosi, who's I'm just trying to figure out how somebody manages.
Well, her husband makes a lot of money.
It's off of stock trades. It's off of this ridiculous nonsense that you could insider trade.
Nancy whispered to her husband at 3:00 in the morning.
Right. She was doing it while she's sleeping.
By the way, $150 million. Can she get some teeth that fit her mouth? I'm sorry to be so petty, but to me, when you're very wealthy,
you are being petty.
Don't be personal. Don't be personal.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry though. When you're very wealthy and that's a sign of mental illness when you're not taking care of yourself in that way. I'm sorry.
Don't be personal.
I'm right though.
But it's wrong. That insider trading nonsense.
Insider trading is wrong.
Sure. To be honest with you, I think that there must be members that are taking advantage of things. The insider trading thing, they went after Dan Crenshaw, for example, who was trading, $500 or $1,000, and they said he got rich off insider trading. He did not. But we're prohibited from doing a lot of things. You'll see members that'll raise a lot of money in their campaign accounts, but you can't really translate that into something until you're out of Congress, and even when you get out of Congress.
But I was reading in the New York Times, Congresswoman. I was reading in the New York Times, for example, like Dan Goldman, one of the Congress members here in New York. I think he was top.
Rich.
Well, he was from
Already
the Levi.
Rich.
He's the one of the heirs to Levi's. But he was like top 5 in terms of stock enrichment while he was in this in his position as Congress.
But what kind of insider trading did he get? I'm not defending.
Well, you sit on a committee and you know who's getting a contract.
I know I don't have access because, boy, if I could have bought Micron 3 years ago after all the work I did to get them their tax credit and everything, I would have loved to have that. But, I mean, I don't have any of that. So, and I have a person who's my lifelong friend who basically is I don't have a lot of money, but he's, my financial guy. I've scratched and clawed for everything I have and trying to save. And by the way, it costs me money. I have to spend, close to $3,000 a month just on my apartment, which is more than my mortgage in upstate New York. And so
now, Jake's sitting here bought Micron at 100, and it went to 1,200.
Yeah.
Who told you? Who whispered in your ear, Jake?
Well, that's the thing.
Nancy Pelosi. While they were in bed together, Nancy whispered to him too.
I'm not a financial advisor, but I'll tell you something. If you think AI is going away, you're wrong. If you think AI is going to be the same thing like the .com bomb in 2000, you're wrong. Let me tell you something.
Right.
As everyone, and I can say this without worrying about conflicts of interest because I'm not going to mention any individual stuff. Folks, this AI thing needs chips. They need tremendous chip capacity. And it's one thing if you were talking about some fly-by-night company like Cosmo.com back in the .com. These are established chip companies that are meeting this massive demand. I don't think it's overbought. I understand there's going to be some bubbles here and there, but I don't think they're massive. I think this is a clear supply and demand issue. And if it's an established company, so I'll name all of them: Micron Technology, NVIDIA, Intel, Qualcomm, Broadcom. These are established chip companies. This isn't some ramshackle thing that just started in someone's garage. So to me, that was why it was an obvious investment. That's why.
No, it's really, and I don't know enough to trade in the stock world. I have a guy who just like grew up with me, and he I mostly looks like I have mutual funds and things like that. I really don't have any aggressive investments of any kind. And I do think I guess some people might have an inside track on what could work, but that's hard to prove. But the other thing is we have laws in place for that if you're insider trading. So I mean, you can bring a case for that. I mean, a lot of people love it. It's like an easy thing to say, oh, well, these members of Congress, I don't know if we really get that much information that maybe some people do, maybe in leadership and in unique positions. I serve on the Intelligence Committee. I can tell you I don't get any insider track on any of this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there looking at all the secret squirrel stuff, every day. And I agree. Investment opportunities. I just see us. We got to get our act together and come together. We're going to get buried by China and Russia and all of the Asia is they're striving and emerging nations that see our weakness, and I think we have to wake up. And this is a great opportunity to do that. We're in our 250th anniversary. Let's wake up. Let's work together and move on to be bigger and better and positive. This negativity and communism is not the answer to us, striving and winning the future.
I have some breaking news here because I'm now looking at the transcript of the speech that Mayor Mamdani just gave.
My God!
I'm looking at some of the stuff.
That's breaking news.
And he really
breaking news.
Okay.
WABC.
So, now I feel at home.
I'm going to read some quotes because I haven't turned around the sound bites yet, and that's because some people are actually taking this break of a day of a holiday, of a federal holiday. But first of all, the headline to me is exactly what we've been talking about for 4 hours. There are plenty of things to criticize about America. But this is inappropriate time. The July 4th holiday is an inappropriate time to make a speech where you do a laundry list of not only criticism of America, but slander.
Well,
there's a number of slanders. So here we go. First, he says, we see a lot of contradictions. We see a country where children go to sleep hungry while the world's first trillionaire hungers for more. We see monopolies that dominate every industry and oligarchs who buy elections. I guess his election was bought. He won, didn't he? We see masked agents terrorizing our streets, eating food cooked by our undocumented neighbors before spiriting them away in unmarked vans. I see in America a health insurance industry that exploits the sick. I guess this is for Luigi Mangione. But that is not all that I see when I look for America. He also said something nice then. I see in America in corporate landlords for whom negligence is a business model. I see in America where we spend our tax dollars on bombs and bailouts, where we sell our elections to the highest bidder. Strange thing for someone who just won an election to say. No, it's not appropriate to list those things today. This is you have a 5-year-old son who maybe doesn't clean up his room. Maybe he was slow in toilet training. His birthday party in front of grandma and grandpa and all his friends is not the time to mention those grievances. And,
right, it's at the wedding.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, or the funeral. I mean, honestly, this is incredible. These people cannot spend a day where they say something nice about America and only something.
It's not even. I think it's not even about nice. It's all about race, gender, class, and divisiveness. That's the rules for Alinsky. I mean, our country was about unification. It's about individual rights. And about bringing us together. What brings us together? The concept of freedom, the concept of inspiring work, and being able to pursue happiness, not guarantee it. I just like everything they stand for. I don't know how some of these communists are going to come in and actually do the oath of office and put their hand on the Bible or whatever they want to put it on. By the way, they're getting ready for the air show here in D.C. That's what all that sound is out there. The jets are flying all over the place.
I had it yesterday, and I live near Jones Beach, and there was a supersonic jet that flew right over my house while I was on the air too. I know how you feel, Congresswoman.
I remember those days when the SST used to fly over us.
Yeah.
That's they're over there by the
left operates. This is how they divide. They're divisive. They get you all upset and worked up over. It's all this politics of envy. It's everything.
Resentment.
I lived in a resentment. I lived in a communist country. I felt. Once you go down this path, it's very hard to get out. I still work with all these former countries of Yugoslavia, and whether it's Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, Macedonia, it's very hard to live in communism, and be occupied, and then live in communism, and then get out of it.
But the key word,
it really, really damages the soul and the drive, and the people just expect government to do everything for them.
And the ultimate recourse is fear, right? In a republic that we have, it's built on virtue and goodness and working hard and giving back, and that should be the goal. And in a monarchy, it's about just doing it honor. But in tyranny and in communism, it's built on fear. They want to scare the heck out of people, and then they want to intimidate you. Unless you do it their way, they'll throw you in the gulag. They'll throw you in jail. They'll do whatever to punish you. And these speeches that focus on the negative, it's all rooted in fear and scaring people that the world is going to come to an end tomorrow unless you do exactly what these communists want to do.
How many years left? AOC said we had 12 years left in 2018. What do we have left now?
I guess 4.
Yeah, I guess 4 more years.
Wait, let me do the math.
But it's amazing to me.
I get my Social Security right now before the world ends, right?
Yeah.
Look, I think it's very fair to turn around and to say, yes, there's a guy who's on his way to becoming the first trillionaire. We are the richest nation in the history of the world. No American should go hungry. No American should have to sleep on the street. No veteran should ever go hungry and have to sleep on the street. And I understand that. And I acknowledge that that's certainly a commentary that rings strong. And I believe with all American people. However, when you start turning around and then, vilifying an individual because they become successful, isn't that antithetical to America? Isn't that antithetical to what our nation was built on going back into the earliest of days? I just don't, again, understand the mentality, and I certainly understand the younger generation now where they can't afford to live, to buy their own home. It's been very different. They say now the average age of the new home buyer is 40.
The interest rates, that's why.
I think it's more than interest rates. I think the cost of construction has gone up. The cost of land has gone up. Everything has gone up. And I get that. But what Mandani is saying, it's just unrealistic. It's also un-American. And I have a problem with that as well. So, yeah, like what Vito was saying, you can have, both can be right at the same time, right? But to put America down for the purpose of elevating your sort of demented ideology, America should never be and will never be a socialist country. I don't care how many Mandanis tried to run. Ultimately, they will fail, as all socialist countries are technically failing.
But the Democratic Party has to go through soul searching. They got to, because the Democratic Socialist Party, the Socialist Party, if they ran on their own, would get 2% of the vote. but they stole away, or they're trying to steal away the Democratic Party.
Right. They're trying to do like what the Tea Party did, and the Tea Party failed as well.
Yes.
You know, Congresswoman, I one of the things I'm getting as I read through the transcript of the speech is that it's just so obvious that Zohran Mamdani, and it's not surprising, a 34-year-old who never had a real job, it's so obvious he doesn't understand America. And if he were listening to me now, I would say this, maybe he'll understand this more from someone who wasn't talking about someone who wasn't an American. Mohandas Gandhi, was a lawyer in South Africa. He had won some civil rights battles for the people of South Africa, and then he decided to go back home to India. And they welcomed him back to India, and they wanted him to immediately be a political leader there. They wanted him to immediately take over the whole movement there for independence. And he said, no, it's been a while since I've been here. I grew up here, but I spent my entire adult life so far in South Africa. And he spent years traveling the country, riding the ceilings of the trains there, which is dangerous to do. Don't do that. And learning the country again, even though he was born there, before he started to speak up. You know, Zohran Mamdani, he might be 34 years old. I think from an intellectual standpoint and understanding of America, he might as well be 4 years old. He does not understand this country. You know, they tease me here in the studio because of all the different states of this country that I lived in. I wouldn't trade that for the world. I lived in many different parts of this country, and it's humbling. It teaches you something. This man doesn't understand this country, and you should follow the example of Gandhi and take 10, 11 years and ride the rails in this country or ride in a car and learn what America's about.
I just don't think he genuinely cares. I think this is, an opportunity for power. I heard when he was in the state assembly, he hardly ever showed up to vote. And they said he would say whatever he had to say to get the smile and get the attention. He's another performance artist, like so many of these politicians on the rise, because, one of my good friends used to say, you scratch the surface and you get more surface. There's no depth to them. They're not statesmen and leaders. They're people living off, the grift that is what has become a lot of our political life here. It's hard to know who's real, who cares, and all that. So
you're so right, Congressman.
Very shallow.
You're so right, Congressman. Because think about every single thing today has a commentary to it. So the other day I was watching television, and they're showing the outside, the south view of the White House. And President Trump put up the American bald eagle, a wooden version of it, attached it. And they started to make the claim that it's visually very reminiscent of Nazi Germany, of the Third Reich. God. And again, as the son of a Holocaust survivor, I am deeply disgusted by the actions. That's why in the first part of this show, 9.5 hours ago, I turned around and I said that I'm done with this Democratic Party. I'm done. The second I get home today, I'm switching to the Independent Party. Just like more than 54% of this country, I'm done. It is beyond ridiculous. The fact that he put up the American bald eagle, which is the symbol of America, into the back. You may not like it aesthetically. The next president may not like it. Good for you. Take it down. All right? Just take it down. Personally, I don't care. But to turn around and to make the claim that Trump is acting like Adolf Hitler, that he's turned the White House into the Third Reich, the command center for the Third Reich. I'm so insulted by the insinuation from these people that I don't even know how to express myself anymore. Everything that's done doesn't need a comment. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's really, it's tough because really what these people need to do is actually travel to Poland and go see one of the very first concentration camps and walk through that sobering experience, and then now to blithely and easily compare everything to Nazism. I mean, I went to one of the very first. They're practicing here.
We hear you. We hear you fine.
Yeah. So I went there, and it was just one of the most. You just walk in, and your whole body just like.
Or go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington.
Yep.
You can't even believe
the one here in New York
can have this could do this. And this was the camp where they invented the ability to have portable gas chambers, or they could put them in the truck so they wouldn't have to drive people to a site. I mean, I'm like, what? I mean, like, how is this happening? And here we are today, looking at these people, calling everyone a Nazi, and yet, advocating, for anti-Semitism and calling people out, because it's just, I don't remember this ever in my life. And now I've never seen it quite like this. And I think because social media exacerbates a lot of these things and gives people immediate access and
Absolutely.
immediate access to propaganda, I think it almost makes it worse and makes it scarier. And
the monetization. And please don't ever forget that they monetize this anger, this rage, and this hate.
Yeah. Congressman Claudia Tenney, I often tell people that the most important Bible story, and I'm not a Bible thumper, I understand it's not for everyone, but the most important Bible story for America over the last 20 years has been the story of Cain and Abel, which is very often misrepresented as envy and jealousy. It's not. Cain isn't interested in any of the things that Abel wants. He's resentful. Abel works hard. Abel's the first capitalist. He makes an investment. He gets good return on his investment from God. And Cain looks at it and says, "You made me look bad. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be I wanted to be on subsistence." He was a communist. "I just wanted to get my ration and move on and not, you made me look bad by working hard." So he kills him. Resentment, jealousy actually can sometimes lead to great things. Oh, my buddy across the street's got a great car. I'm going to work harder to get one too. That's jealousy in some ways. Resentment is, I'm going to trash his car. And that's where we are in America. I think this is I think socialism and communism has always been the politics of resentment, not the politics of
I would add
people.
one thing. Warren Buffett's longtime partner, the late Charlie Munger, actually said, greed doesn't rule the world, envy rules the world.
Yeah.
And I can live with that. I can live with envy. It's resentment I can't live with. I can't live with the resentment. Envy I can live with. Sometimes great things come from that.
Well, guys, we've been sitting here for 5 hours.
6 for me.
Not me.
6 for you.
Yeah.
We've been, and we were supposed to be here only till 10. We took over an hour of Brian Kilmeade's show. The Congresswoman was nice enough to be with us for over an hour.
Thank you.
It's now 4 minutes to 11. I think we have to give the show back to Brian Kilmeade at 11 o'clock at least.
Contract.
I'm happy to do that. I don't want to have to go to his house in Massapequa with a peace offering.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for being on for an hour with us.
Well, thank you so much. It was fun to be on with you all, and happy 4th of July. It's going to be an exciting day down here. Many of us are celebrating. Here we go.
All right.
These are pretty cool. These are the Air Force jets, and the Blue Angels were out.
Blue Angels will be in Staten Island tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Wow. E pluribus unum. Let's not have division in America from many
Amen.
one.
Amen. That's our motto and our conclusion for our 250-year anniversary this weekend. I will be back at 5 o'clock to do the 5 o'clock show.
I'll be back at 10 p.m.
And you'll be back at 10 p.m.
You know why, John?
Rita's show.
You know why? Because when you know, you know.
No, you know.
There you go.
He's on message.
Vito Fasella, thank you for stopping by today.
Thank you, John. Thank
make sure you take care of the great borough of Staten Island. It's a great borough.
It
and
is.
by the way, we had a sellout crowd with the soccer in the stadium in Staten Island. And we had like 12,000 or 14,000 visitors in a couple of days.
We were there for the opening day. And one thing about the World Cup, which I'm going to say 2 positive things. I'm not a negative guy. The World Cup has brought people together. They realize they have much more in common than we don't.
Good for
them. And that's one. And number 2, I'll go back to what I said right at the outset. I spend a lot of time visiting schools, young kids, middle school. I was at an elementary school graduation just a couple of weeks ago, and the kids were belting out the national anthem like you couldn't believe, singing God Bless America like you couldn't believe, doing the Pledge of Allegiance loud and clear. Their parents were there, proud of them, taking photos. There is a lot of good across Staten Island, across this country.
And a lot of good people in Staten Island.
A lot of great people in Staten Island that love this country and will die for it, and they have died for it. And we got to continue to highlight them and not focus on the negative, resentful, envious people who want to destroy this country that is the greatest in the history of the world. And we will win, and we will prevail.
The determination is going to have to be the migrants that came here that don't love America.
Yeah, kick them
why
out.
Why should they have a green card?
Let them just go back.
You know,
I don't understand.
let them go back. I mean, if they don't love America, don't try to change our way of life. Michael, thank you for being here for 5 hours. And tell us, what do you think the migrants versus immigrants?
Well, I like your comparison because it's actually correct. You know, there is a big difference. I've never been, and I never will be, opposed to immigration. And I think all Americans agree with the same thing. As I said earlier,
immigration.
Every country has the right to borders, as Trump would say. A country without borders, quite frankly, isn't a country. I absolutely believe that. I don't believe people should have the right within which to just come to the country and stay. I believe we need immigration reform. It's been needed for a long time. There is, and I love your comparison, there is a big difference and a distinction between immigrants and migrants. And I'm in total favor of that. I just don't particularly agree with some of the tactics that are being used by ICE agents. Now, I'm not talking about all of ICE agents. I'm talking about specific. So I'm not going to call ICE as a whole, but that's the part where you can have an intelligent conversation on disagreement. We all agree that we need immigration reform. So let's just agree on what we agree with and then work from there.
If people come to this country and they hate this country, let them go back to their own, wherever they come from or any place else. It's a free. If four of us were to go to France tomorrow.
The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.